Joan Murray, skydiving accident. Joan Murray was an experienced skydiver with 35 jumps to her name, expecting another routine dive. As she fell at 120 miles per hour, she attempted to deploy her parachute, but it failed to open. After several tries, her reserve parachute deployed successfully, but she soon faced another challenge. She started spinning uncontrollably, causing the parachute cords to tangle into a knot. This resulted in her crashing to the ground at 80 miles per hour. Upon impact, Joan heard a loud crack before losing consciousness. Rushed to the hospital, she fell into a coma while doctors performed multiple complex reconstructive surgeries and blood transfusions. The entire right side of her body was crushed. Yet, remarkably, she woke up from the coma 2 weeks later and made a full recovery. Her survival was an incredible twist of fate. She landed directly on a fire ant nest. Disturbed by her fall, the venomous ants swarmed her, stinging and biting her over 200 times. The venom from the fire ants, known as solanopsin, stimulates the nervous system, and the sheer volume injected into her kept her heart beating until paramedics arrived, ultimately saving her life. Julie McSorley, humpback whale incident. Julie McSorley and her friend Liz Cottrell were kayaking in San Luis Obispo, California, when they found themselves amidst an extraordinary natural spectacle. Humpback whales feeding on a large school of fish known as a bait ball in the bay. The scene attracted many tourists who gathered on boats and kayaks to witness the majestic creatures in action. Although whale watching is a popular pastime, it comes with vital safety precautions. Experts recommend maintaining a distance of at least 300 feet from the feeding zone to avoid dangerous encounters. Unfortunately, Julie and Liz miscalculated their distance. Suddenly, the bait ball moved surprisingly close to their kayaks, catching the attention of a nearby humpback whale. In a split second, before the women could react, the whale lunged forward to feed, mistakenly scooping up both Julie and Liz along with the fish. As they were engulfed inside the whale's massive mouth, the two women must have feared they were about to be swallowed whole, especially since humpback whales can grow up to 56 feet long, appearing intimidating from a human perspective. However, despite their enormous mouths, humpback whales have relatively small throats, only about the size of a human fist, capable of stretching to a maximum diameter of around 15 inches. Additionally, these whales lack teeth, which is fortunate as it prevented the women from being crushed. In a stroke of luck, the whale's natural instinct kicked in. It instinctively spat out anything that didn't resemble its typical prey. Moments later, Julie and Liz were expelled from the whale's mouth, surfacing unharmed and bewildered by the encounter. Margaret Guire. Tragedy on the RMS Lusitania. Margaret Guire was a young Canadian woman who had recently married her husband, Herbert, in 1915. To celebrate their union, they decided to take a trip aboard the RMS Lusitania, departing from New York City with their destination set for Liverpool. The journey initially went smoothly, and they enjoyed a routine dinner together when disaster struck. A sudden and loud boom reverberated throughout the ship. The vessel had been torpedoed by a German submarine. In the chaos that ensued, Herbert immediately escorted Margaret to a lifeboat, where she joined 3 other women and a baby. However, as she looked up and observed the massive smokestacks looming above them, panic set in at the thought that they might collapse onto the lifeboat. In a moment of fear, Margaret made the decision to climb back up to the deck to get a better sense of the situation, leaving Herbert behind, who believed she was safe and boarded another lifeboat with other passengers. As the Lusitania sank rapidly, Margaret attempted to swim away from the wreckage. However, her efforts were futile as a whirlpool formed around the sinking ship, pulling her and 2 other men towards one of the smokestacks. In what seemed like a dire situation, a sudden explosion from below blasted Margaret back to the surface of the water, allowing her to gasp for air. Fortunately, she was spotted and rescued by a nearby lifeboat as she fought to comprehend the chaotic scene unfolding around her. To her shock and disbelief, she looked around and saw Herbert in another lifeboat, crying and believing he had lost her to the ocean. Matthew Lowe's factory accident. Matthew Lowe was just starting another routine shift at his factory, expecting a day like any other. Upon arriving, he quickly got to work. As he walked past an automated conveyor belt, he suddenly felt his overalls snagged on something. It was the conveyor itself. Before he could react, Matthew was pulled onto the belt and dragged toward a narrow 5-inch opening. In a terrifying instant, his entire body was forced through the constricted tunnel, and he could hear the horrifying cracks of his bones as the machine expelled him on the other side. Miraculously, Matthew remained conscious despite the severe injuries he had sustained. His agonizing screams alerted his coworkers, who rushed to the scene. What they saw was horrifying. Matthew's back was broken in 2 places. His pelvis, ribs, and hips were nearly completely crushed, and his abdomen was severely torn. He was immediately rushed to the hospital, where doctors had little hope for his survival. They even advised his partner to prepare for the worst, expecting the injuries to be fatal. However, against all odds, Matthew showed incredible resilience. After undergoing 6 surgeries and spending a month in the hospital, he slowly began to recover. Remarkably, 18 months later, he made a full comeback and even returned to work. Taiba, construction site accident. Taiba, a young Indian girl, was out for a walk when her curiosity led her to a nearby construction site. With debris scattered and half-finished structures surrounding her, the area was inherently dangerous, particularly for someone without proper equipment or experience. Despite the risks, Taiba decided to explore the site. Tragically, as she navigated through the hazardous environment, she tripped and fell neck-first onto a long metal rod that was protruding from a brick. Bystanders witnessed the horrifying accident and promptly called for an ambulance. Upon her arrival at the hospital, doctors were left stunned by the circumstances of her injury. Remarkably, the metal rod had missed all vital nerves and blood vessels in her head, a fortunate twist of fate that significantly increased her chances of survival. After a tense 35-minute surgery, the medical team successfully removed the rod from Taiba's neck. Incredibly, she was able to be discharged from the hospital just 3 days later, showcasing her remarkable resilience. Medical professionals noted that had she fallen just a few inches further forward, the outcome could have been fatal. Frane Selak, the luckiest, unluckiest man on earth. Frane Selak is an elderly music teacher from Croatia, known for his extraordinary series of near-fatal experiences that have earned him the title of both the luckiest and unluckiest man on earth. His remarkable story begins in 1962 when he was traveling on a train that suffered a fault in the tracks, causing it to derail and plunge into a freezing river below. Most passengers either perished in the crash or drowned inside the submerged train, but Frane miraculously survived with only a broken arm and managed to swim to the shore. Just a year later, in 1963, Frane found himself on a small plane when both engines failed mid-flight. As the aircraft went into a free fall, a malfunctioning door blew open, yanking him out of the plane without a parachute. In a miraculous twist of fate, while the plane crashed into a hill, killing all 19 passengers on board, Frane landed on a haystack, escaping with only minor injuries. In 1965, his string of bad luck continued when he was traveling on a bus that lost traction on an icy bridge. The bus crashed through the safety barrier and plunged into the valley below, resulting in the deaths of 4 passengers. Yet again, Frane survived. Determined to avoid public transportation, he began relying on his own car, but this decision proved no safer. In 1970, while driving, his engine suddenly burst into flames. Miraculously, he managed to escape just in time. However, this was not his only brush with fire. In 1973, while driving another vehicle, a ruptured fuel pump caused flames to blow toward him through the air vents. Despite suffering burns, Frane found a way to escape once more. In 1975, he survived being hit by a bus, and the following year, another near-fatal incident occurred when his car fell off a mountain road due to a careless driver, plummeting 300 feet. The vehicle exploded upon impact, but Frane managed to jump out of the window mid-fall and landed on a tree, once again emerging alive. Against all odds, in 2003, Frane's luck took a positive turn when he won the lottery. If you want more intriguing stories or facts, subscribe to my channel, KzenaTopic.
Thanks for watching. I hope you like it. Next video will be coming soon. Bye!